big scar in his story. Reminiscing, some say now looking back, may have been sending clues. Now another person people are pointing out before we get into this federal complaint once again is Pooh Shiesty's dad, Lontrell Williams Sr. Now we're not going to go over the situation that happened in 2004 with the DJ because we talked about it in the first video. I'll leave the link in the bio like I said once again. But we are going to go over his plea agreement in that case and why he only served 2 days for that case, which was for a murder and an R, according to what prosecutors say, fueled by his animosity towards the DJ for not playing his music, instead playing Yo Gotti's music, allegedly. Now during this time, Pooh Shiesty's dad did get arrested. But because his homie went to trial and he wasn't placed there, they couldn't charge him with the murder. They did charge him with the drugs that were seized at the time of his arrest. And during that time, even though it wasn't murder, he still agreed to be an informant for the feds. Now fam, before we move forward with the rest of this story, we gotta slow down and really break down something that most people skim over when they look at federal paperwork. Because buried inside a plea agreement is something that changes the entire conversation. And that's a potential 5K1, one motion. Now if you ever dealt with the federal system, a 5K1 might just look like another number in a document. But in federal world, that number means everything. Let me break it down. First off, the defendant in this case, Lontrell Williams Sr., agreed to plead guilty to multiple counts involving federal drug conspiracy laws. Those are serious charges that typically carry heavy federal prison sentences. We're talking about charges that can easily land 10, 20 years, sometimes even life, depending on the circumstances. But right after the plea selection, the agreement introduced something very important. It says the government may recommend a reduction in his sentence under United States Sentencing Guidelines 5K1. What does that mean? In simple terms, a 5K1 is a cooperation deal. It means that the defendant has agreed to provide substantial assistance to the federal government, and that assistance usually involves helping prosecutors build a case against other individuals. Now, that help can come from several forms. Sometimes it means providing detailed information about drug operations, suppliers, or co-conspirators. Sometimes it means helping investigators understand how a criminal organization operates, who is involved, where the drugs are coming from, and where the money is going. Other times it means actually testifying in court or in front of a grand jury against other people involved in the conspiracy. And in some situations, even help investigators make recorded calls identifying other suspects or confirming evidence investigators already have. But here's the key part most people miss. The plea agreement makes it clear that none of this guarantees a sentence reduction. The document literally says the decision is solely within the discretion of the government. In other words, prosecutors are the ones who decide whether the cooperation was valuable enough to be rewarded. And if they believe the defendant provided real help that actually led something that leads to investigations or prosecutions, then they can file a motion asking the judge to reduce the sentence. That's what a 5K1 is. And looking back, he got 4 years of supervised release, and that was it. So apparently, they felt his information was enough to get a reduced sentence. And the feds, that's what they call black and white, proving if a person is an informant or not. And this what we can call, quote unquote, being a snitch, if you living by that. So let's continue with the story. Fast forward to the first week of April of 2026. Senior had a bond hearing